So far we started with the first passage in which Allah Azza wa Jal addresses the Messenger himself, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Those are the ayat, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Among its many themes, we highlighted the need and the importance that Allah Azza wa Jal gives to seeking knowledge. So the first word itself is iqra, to read. Allama, to teach, comes up twice. Qalam comes up. All these words that have to do with education and learning. That's the central theme of the first passage in which Allah addresses His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of those ayat, the final of those ayat is عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. He taught the human being what he did not know. So Allah taught the human being knowledge that the human being did not have access to. If this is such treasured knowledge that we couldn't have learned it, and the only way we could have learned it is Allah taught us, then what kind of person would it be that would have no value for this knowledge? What kind of person would refuse to learn this kind of knowledge? Allah gives His diagnosis in the next passage, a couple of ayat. كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَرَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى إِنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الرُّجْعَى. These three ayat, basically internally, what is Allah's diagnosis of a person that doesn't appreciate this knowledge? Such an incredible treasure, who would turn it away? It is no doubt the human being himself that seeks to rebel. Meaning this knowledge calls you to submit. It's not just any knowledge, it's not just for your information, it's not casual knowledge, it's something that demands on you submission. And even in the first words, it's not iqra bismillah, it's iqra bismi rabbik. When you declare Allah the Master, what do you become? A slave. It's calling for action right away. So now, the human being seeks to rebel. That's one reason to reject this knowledge. Then arra'ahu istaghna, that he sees himself free of need. He doesn't think he needs it. So the human being doesn't think he needs this knowledge that Allah says you couldn't have known it by yourself, and the attitude of this person, I don't need it, I can do without it. I haven't learned it so far and I'm doing okay, I don't see why I should be learning it. You know, in our times it's easy to understand. Why do you go and learn something? Why does somebody go get a bachelor's degree or a certification, or they go into certain technology school or whatever? People go learn something because they think it's going to bring them some return. It's valuable. Something, if they know it, their life will improve somehow. Or if they know it, they'll be able to help themselves. Well, this person doesn't see the need. He thinks he's okay. Whatever he knows is good enough for him. أَرَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. And he doesn't realize the consequence. He knows, no concern that he'll be returned to Allah. So Allah reminds him, إِنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الرُّجْعَى. No doubt it is to your Master that there is the final return. Now we come to the next part. So there are three passages so far. Knowledge, then the rejection, the reasons for the rejection of knowledge, and then the behavior that occurs because one rejects knowledge, what kind of lowly person they become. And now we come to the fourth, Allah Azza wa Jal declaring warnings against those who reject knowledge. What is the consequence of ignorant behavior? So, this guy thinks he doesn't need it, and because he doesn't need this knowledge, when he does something bad, he doesn't know the consequences of it. He doesn't realize it's going to bring him anything bad to himself. So for the one who is engrossed in sins, this is a very powerful lesson in the Qur'an here. The one who's engrossed, even among the Muslims, the one who's engrossed in sins, what is the knowledge that needs to be told to them over and over until it gets internalized? Allah is watching. Don't you know Allah is watching? Don't you know Allah is watching? When you do something bad, when you do something indecent, and you say, did you realize your dad was watching you when you were doing that? Did you realize your boss was actually listening when you were cursing him? When somebody else is watching and you do this, you behave badly, all of a sudden you put yourself in check. You start apologizing. You realize there was something very bad, right? But now, for a person to gain the first step in Iman and leave their criminal behavior, أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى. Now, that he doesn't even want to accept. That knowledge he even rejects. Now we get to the ayat of consequences.